On this episode of the Sports Opinions Podcast, the voice of the Hudson Valley, Garofolo Jr., and Tony Navarro, 2 out of the 3 members of Hudson Valley Sports Talk radio show, joins me as we talk basically everything New York sports and have an absolute blast while doing it. But before we get to that, here's a message from our friends at Overtime Heroics.
What's going on, guys? Grant Pushkar here, joined by my co-director, Victor Williams. Are you looking to bring more attention to your sports content? Over at Overtime Heroics, you can be a part of a growing sports community, such as podcasts like my own, Cleveland Surge,
and my own Philly Special Podcast. And if you're looking for a place to share your sports opinions, they also have an active forum for all sports topics. So if you want your sports content to be heard amongst other sports fans, go over to Overtime Heroics /forums and make your first hot take today.
And now, without further ado, cue the intro. What's up, sports fans, and welcome to the Sports Opinions Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Alex Cuesta. With me today, this is going to be fun. I'm already sitting in front, in studio live, which is rare that I'm recording with people live. But they are two.
Why are they usually dead?
Usually they're on the phone or doing other. But hopefully
need some
not
intro
dead.
music.
It comes.
You need
a
beat.
I add that later.
Okay.
See, that's the beauty of podcasting and technology.
You know, the whole ambiance.
Well, you could use Wi-Fi because that was always our intro.
See, can I use your studio where you guys report, do your,
Sure.
That could be a thing. Maybe we can work that out. But mentioning that, 2 of the 3 members of Hudson Valley Sports Talk, I have the voice of the Hudson Valley, Garofolo Jr., and his partner in crime of 8 years about now.
About 8 years.
Tony Navarro.
And he has committed many crimes.
And unfortunately, they're sitting in front of me. One's all get up in Mets stuff. The other one's in Dodger stuff. And it's just... It's going to be fun.
There isn't a Yankee between us.
I am a Yankee fan right here. So the winner is sitting right here. And Carl is glaring at me.
I'm half Yankee.
The third part of us that couldn't be here today is Carl Lindbergh.
And we don't know what kind of fan he is.
He's a Yankee fan.
Oh, he is. Okay.
He's a Yankee fan. So there's somebody. So if you're going to go listen, you guys air Sundays at 10. Where can people in the Hudson Valley, where can they tune in to hear your show?
WBNR. Also, if you have Google, you can say, hey, Google, play WBNR radio. And it'll pop up. That's how my wife listens.
Is that an iHeart radio station or radio.com?
Camel Broadcasting. You want to get us fired?
I'm just asking just in case
Camel
there's
Broadcasting,
an app or...
Real country radio.
It's Camel Broadcasting.
Okay.
You can also, there is an app.
There's an app for that.
There's always an app for that, right?
There's always an app for that.
WBNR,
Simple Radio. There's
Simple Radio.
Simple Radio.
Simple Radio.
There you go.
And you can look up WBNR.
There you go.
Or WLNA or WGHQ.
All right. So there's plenty of places to listen. So Sundays.
And the internet.
And if you miss it on Sundays, you have the app there. I'm pretty sure that they have recordings that are saved. And you can, there you go.
Well, not on the app, but if you request from our Facebook, which is HV Sports Talk, if you request us on our Facebook, we can give you a link to where previous shows are located.
There you go. So what I'm hearing here is there's just no excuse not to listen.
Of course.
All right. So we're going to jump right in. This is going to be fun. I can tell you right now, these guys are 2 characters sitting in front of me, and that's fantastic.
Characters.
Yeah, there you go.
Character.
We're going to jump in first. We're not going to talk about baseball yet because we are in the boring part of baseball season. It is
what
the
do you mean, a boring part of
the
baseball
middle
season?
Part of the season is boring.
Baseball is my favorite subject, but that's okay.
Well, that's why we saved that.
And I just did my thesis on why baseball in America is dying.
And that is true, and I think there's plenty of people that would agree, and that's why we're going to get to that in the middle. We're not saving the best for last. We're going to save the best for the middle. We'll talk some baseball then.
Sure.
We're going to start off, though, with NBA free agency because I'm a Brooklyn Nets fan, and I just want to rub it in everybody's face all the time that we just had a hell of a free agency.
Should we break his legs now or after the show?
Well, congratulations on getting a guy who's injured and won't be playing for 2 years.
One, probably because his surgeon is the Brooklyn Nets surgeon. A year and a half.
Yeah, I kind of think he made a deal with him. I'll fix you up if you come to the Brooklyn Nets.
And that's fine by me because we ended up, listen, us Nets fans have suffered and suffered.
You've not suffered as long as the Knicks fans.
Well, you've suffered in New Jersey. Now you're suffering in Brooklyn.
And we finally get some due.
You got Jay-Z. So, Kim is in the house. So
you have to say that the New Jersey Net fans, though, haven't suffered as much as the New York Knicks fans recently.
No, 43 years and still counting.
Well, New York Knicks fans suffer from getting lied to every day on a bunch of sports radio.
They suffer from an owner who doesn't know how to mind his own damn business and stay out of the kitchen. But in the meantime, you guys got 3 great players. Yes. All joking aside, do I wish it was the Knicks? Not in this particular manner, do that. KD is hurt, and Kyrie, I think, is going off the rails now. I'm a Duke fan. Mm-hmm. I saw the kid in college. I wanted the Knicks to get that pick. They didn't. And ever since he went up to Boston, something's happened. He's now gotten a couple of injuries, so that's something you're going to have to be concerned with down the road.
Yeah. And
he's also now seems to be a little bit of a, stirrer of the pot, so to speak. Tony?
Yeah, I think congratulations to the Nets. I think they've made a good choice. I really did not want to see, everybody said that KD was going to come to the Knicks. I really didn't want to see that because, like I said, KD is not going to be useful and he's not going to be a productive part of the team for a year and a half. But that aside, the others that they got in that deal, I tell you, the Nets, I think, are probably one of the winners in the offseason here.
When Kyrie is right mentally and when he's right physically, he's one of the best in the game.
Now, you bring up a good concern that I have with Kyrie, and that we're not getting Darren Williams 2.0, an all-world talent that can't handle the pressure mentally and then physically breaks down. That's exactly, Darren Williams was one of the greatest point guards in the game.
If he thinks he had pressure up in Boston,
oh my God,
wait till the New York crowd gets a hold of him if they don't produce.
Well, I'm hoping that the addition of a guy like DeAndre Jordan, who they're both friends with,
and I think that's the best signing that the Nets made, believe it, because he'll keep the stability with the other 2 guys.
See, that's a great one. And they had the under-the-radar sign. They just signed Wilson Chandler to play some stretch 4 for them. They have Torian Prince.
Excellent when he was with the Knicks, and unfortunately he was included in that crazy trade for Carmelo Anthony, who I wanted the Knicks to go out and get him at the time, but I said they gave up way too much. They broke up the nucleus of that team, and they've never recovered from that.
No, not at all. And Torian Prince, I thought, was a very sneaky grab. They gave up Alan Crabb and that massive salary that he had with his injury last year.
Is he related to Buster Crabbe?
I have no clue. We can look that up. Google machine. Let's Google machine.
What about Horseshoe Crab?
No. How about Sebastian the Crab?
Could be Sebastian the Crab. Anyway, continue.
The seaweed is always greener.
Making him laugh? The show is never going to go on.
Hey, that's fine. Listen, this show is more about you guys. The Sports Opinions podcast is about the 2 people guests in front of me. Everyone knows my opinions. They hear it every week.
It all started a very long time ago, Sonny.
You gotta say that with a little bit more waver in your voice.
Okay.
And also make believe that you don't have any teeth. That's much better, yeah.
So now we can switch gears like the rest of the New York sports
switch
media.
Gears.
We'll say we said the little blip. Well, yeah, we said a little blip about the Nets, and then let's get on
heading in the right direction.
Let's get on the chair. Let's everyone lay down, and let's start doing Knicks therapy. Which that is what all of New York sports media. I listen to Sports Talk Radio.
Knicks therapy because I'm already in Ranger and Dodger therapy. So the Knicks mess pales in comparison.
Rangers may have oversigned for Panarin, but they have had a good offseason.
We'll get to the Rangers in a minute. As far as the Knicks go, look, I'm glad they didn't throw cash just to throw cash and say, okay, let's sign anybody. They signed guys to 1- and 2-year deals that'll come out from the cap space. And in 2021, when the free agency period is better again, maybe by that time, players will say, hey, they have settled down. They're starting to move in the right direction. Chandler's going to be a player.
Has Dolan sold the team yet?
No.
By that point.
But mark my words, Zion will come to the Knicks if he gets the opportunity.
Now, I like what the Knicks have as a nucleus in terms of front office and coach. I think Fizz is a hell of a coach.
Yeah,
I like Mills and Perry. They are good basketball guys. And you could see like you said, they just didn't throw money on anybody. And they made a lot of smart pickups. The guys that they got are professionals. They have professional basketball players.
The problem they're going to have is if they become a 30 to 35, 40 win, dare I say it, team, they're going to be stuck in draft hell. They've got a lot of draft picks over the next 2 or 3 years, and picking 15th, 16th, 17th, unless you find that diamond in the rough, you're better off picking in the top 5 or 6. And how come every time the Knicks are in the lottery with the balls going around, with the exception of this year, their ping pong balls go backwards instead of forwards, and they should have had the number 1 pick this year and didn't.
It's because the NBA doesn't want another Ewing conspiracy like there was forever
There was
ago.
no conspiracy.
Now, Tony, I'm throwing this one at you. With all the pickups that they had, they have a lot of professional players, good basketball players, veterans signed 1-2 year deals. Does it concern you that it's going to take some shots and some reps from Knox, from Dennis Smith Jr., from young guys, Mitchell Robinson, that need to grow in order for the attraction? Because one thing my Brooklyn Nets did, not to bring it too far back to them, they grew a young core of guys that are a bunch of role players, and now the stars are like, okay, we don't have to do everything. We have guys that know their roles with Harris LeVert. So is there going to be enough ball to go around for these young guys?
Well, in bringing in like R.J. Barrett, right? And I think R.J. Barrett is probably a good add to the Knicks.
I don't like R.J. very much. So
I think he's kind of, the way the Knicks are going and what Carl said earlier, Zion is going to jump ship, and he's probably going to go probably to the Knicks, and I have to believe that having R.J. Barrett there is going to help that. So I think that was a smart move by the Knicks.
Now, is this a little really Knicks fans drinking the Kool-Aid again?
No.
Because Knicks fans did that for over a year and a half.
Their
young kids,
Zion. Their young kids are good, and the young kids are going to play. I'm not too concerned about the guys that they signed. Those guys are going to be role players.
Besides Julius Randle, who I think they want to build around.
The Knicks are going to deal those guys if they can. They're going to cut them next year, at the end of next year or the year after, to free up cap space. And I won't be surprised if the Knicks deal some of these guys to take on some expiring contracts, which frees them up some more next year and the year after. I think that's the plan. And if it's not, then I really don't know what they're doing.
So is Giannis in the cards in 2 years? Because Antetokounmpo is up in 2 years. I don't know if he's the type of player that's going to leave.
He is, and he's a hero.
Well, he's great over there.
We've seen very rarely, but occasionally when a guy says, you know what, I like it here. I want to grow my roots here.
What's loyalty?
And they stay.
Yeah.
So Giannis is really getting a lot of love right now, and he may not want to leave that to come to,
the big show,
the big show with the lights on him every night. Not like he's getting where he is, but he's getting a lot of love where he is.
That's what makes it very difficult, and that's what I see with a lot of teams in New York. And I'll reference the Mets, but like the Mets and the Jets, when they get somebody in New York that can play in New York and produce in New York, they end up giving them away. And to me, I can't see how you can do that, because it is so difficult to play in New York with all the media attention that they have in New York. It is just so difficult to do that. And
you being a Mets fan, remember Jason Bay?
Yeah.
All-world talent until he became to the Mets. And I think the pressure just got to him.
Take a look at Carl's Dodgers.
Yeah.
I mean,
now I have a question.
Third base,
right?
Mr. Turner.
Mr. Turner. He was a New York
Couldn't
Met.
do it as a Met. Goes
now
out to L.A.
He did fine as a Met.
They just didn't.
Fine
Sandy
as a Met,
just got rid of him.
Didn't.
Yeah.
They just got rid of him.
Yeah.
And he flourished over the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Now, question for
I'm really worried. I'm really worried. I just jumping on the baseball scene a little bit.
Yeah, that's fine. We could transition right in. That's fine. We could transition right there.
I'm really worried about the Mets right now having McNeil and Alonso.
What a great pair.
And even J.D. Davis off the bench.
Yeah.
Those three. I see absolutely nothing wrong with the Mets offense as far as their offense goes.
Terrible bullpen.
Their bullpen.
Worse than the league.
They just switched out, though. They're pretty much their whole bullpen. They had Familia come back from injury.
Mm-hmm.
And yesterday in their win against the Yankees, if you take a look at that, the Mets ended up winning 4-2, and their bullpen was phenomenal.
Yeah,
and Steven Matz
did really, really well.
Bullpen.
And you had, Steven Matz has been put in the bullpen. And I think that's going to help solidify it. And, frankly, I think that's a better place for Matz.
Absolutely.
Frankly, his name is Alex.
Definitely didn't call me Shirley, which is I don't know if a lot of kids that listen to podcasts will understand the Shirley reference.
So Shirley reference?
Yeah, I don't think they'll understand that. Exactly. So I have a question before we jump into baseball. It kind of pertains to all sports. We talked about Giannis wanting to stay where he is because he gets a lot of love. Russell Westbrook's another example, staying in a small market there. Is it because of social media and because they can get the endorsements and they can get the love in these smaller market areas without having to deal with the pressure of LA media, New York media, Boston media?
Years ago, players, when they became a free agent in any sport, Boston, New York, LA, Chicago, they wanted to go to the big market because they could. Today,
even the Texas Rangers had a piece.
It doesn't matter where a guy goes or where a woman goes to play, because the internet.
You can be a face of your sport.
Yeah.
And if you're a face of your sport anywhere.
Look at Christian Yelich.
You can promote yourself in all types of media.
And they have so many outside. Long gone are the days where, a baseball player or a football player worked as a car salesman or worked as an appliance salesman during the off season.
Now this is their only trade as long as
the money they make
baseball.
is phenomenal. Yep. So they can branch out. Can you imagine what Willie Mays, Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, Muhammad Ali, take Jimmy Brown in football, take the athlete. I can't imagine Guy Lafleur today, Ken Dryden. People don't even know who those guys are, by the way. Even Wayne Gretzky, as much money and as popular. Could you imagine if he was coming around now, how they would market that? It wouldn't matter that he played up. One of the reasons why he left Edmonton is they won 5 cups and half the world didn't know who the heck he was. Well, so he goes to L.A.
Well, there's also an issue, though, with baseball, because as we talk about this, the greatest player of our generation, Mike Trout, is sitting there in Anaheim,
floundering,
and doesn't get any, doesn't get the love that he definitely deserves, and it's ridiculous. And
he made a huge mistake from a marketing perspective by re-upping with them for 10 years. From a financial perspective, from a security perspective, from the fact that he likes the West Coast perspective.
Well, isn't that kind of contradicting to you can be successful anywhere?
Well, the baseball has that problem where you can't, because you look at a guy like the Mets, and the Mets are quote-unquote small market. They're small market because their owner doesn't want to spend any money.
They're not small market. They think small market, and they operate small market.
But you look at a guy like McNeil and Alonso, fantastic players. You put them on the Angels, nobody knows who the hell they are. They're on the Mets. They're on SportsCenter on ESPN. They're
on the Home Run Derby. They're on the All-Star team.
Exactly. Right. They don't have to build this 2-3 years of doing it. They could do it right now, just like Gary Sanchez had his big pop.
And Trout now has been the most dominating guy to come into the league, go back to.
He's the Mantle DiMaggio.
Right. Or Barry Bonds or Ken Griffey Jr. He's that good. He's on par with that. He's, 27, if he's that much? Yeah. And he's already been a superstar for 5 or 6 years. I mean, he's a phenomenal talent. And quite frankly, I was hoping, even though I'm a Dodger fan, I was hoping he was going to come to the Yankees. And now
he's a Jersey boy, so that would have been nice. Either Yankees or Mets. He's from South Jersey.
Right.
He grew up a Phillies fan. So.
There was a rumor. there was a rumor that he and Harper were going to team up together in Philly, and
So, Carl, you talked earlier about the death of baseball. You mentioned that you talked about that. I wanted to talk about the death of the starter, and we can go in because I think the starting pitcher, the Rays, started that last year, and it wasn't by design. They had
called an opener now, not a closer.
They had 4. They had 4 of their 5 guys on the DL at one time. And so they had to bring someone in to pitch.
So they bring in the bullpen.
So they brought in an opener. And you look at it, and it's been trending this way because guys are – I hate when I hear –
But it's not a new phenomenon because I remember going back to when I was playing that, hey –
there was a bullpen day.
It was a bullpen day. The starters were worn out or, maybe your starter who pitched the last game is not eligible to pitch the next game. And, the next starter – had a bar mitzvah that day or a confirmation and he wasn't there. So it was it was pitch by committee.
Yeah.
And they said to the guys, just get me 3 outs this inning, get me 3, and you pieced it together. So it's not a new phenomenon, but it's all the rage right now. And I think the day of a Goose Gossage, a Bruce Sutter, it's going to go 3 or 4 innings is over. But I don't think we're ever going to see a Mariano Rivera again. I just think that's –
I think what you're finding in baseball as far as the pitcher goes is, there's a lot more focus on trying not to blow out a pitcher's arm.
Right. Give me 4, 5, 6 innings and we're good.
Quality start is dead. Quality start is a dead stat completely.
And, I don't think it's a dead stat because you have people like DeGrom
who can go it.
You have people yesterday, Wheeler.
Well, younger CC too would eat up 8 innings every single game.
Wheeler went out to the 7th inning. He had 106 pitches, I think, when he went out there. And he wanted to go out for one more player, and it was unheard of for Wheeler to come out with over 100, to come back.
Which is a good sign for Mets.
He actually, his high this year was 120 pitches.
Great sign. Now, I think this all stems down, especially with the pitchers, to the fact that you're having kids that are 11 starting to throw breaking balls. That, to me, is why their arms are weak when they get older.
When I was a kid 100 years ago, it was the curveball. They didn't want us throwing a curveball before we were 30. In fact, we weren't allowed in the leagues to throw a curveball before we were 12.
You shouldn't be allowed to do it until you're out of high school. Or be quite honest.
You shouldn't.
It should be fastball changeup only. If you're a good fastball thrower, you can have enough movement on a 2-seam where a high school kid's going to struggle.
If you take, they say that the pitcher's arms are weaker. They're more susceptible.
They're all getting
to
Tommy
injury,
John,
and they're all getting Tommy John. But if you take a look at the pitchers like Nolan Ryan. Okay, Nolan Ryan pitched for years. He was an Iron Man as far as the pitcher
even Tom
goes.
Seaver. Tom Seaver would start a game and then come and close the second half of the doubleheader, and that's in the 80s. That's not too long ago that was occurring.
Wilbur Wood pitching the both ends of a doubleheader.
It's bizarre.
You don't see that these days, but I think it's because, like you say, when they're younger, they're pitching arms, and a lot of people are focusing on not getting them injured when they're younger as well, which is good, but they're not strengthening the arm enough to be able to handle the rigors of what a starting pitcher would be.
Or how about the pitchers of the Walter Johnson, Christy Matheson generation, pitching 20 innings plus?
Which is insane.
They'd have a lawsuit against them this year, today.
And I think a lot of that also stems back to where, you guys are in the Hudson Valley. That's where we live in New York over here. And it stems back to the young sports with the single sport athlete, which is now a major phenomenon. It always kind of existed, but now it's if you're good at baseball, that's all you play. Good at soccer, that's all you play.
And parents and coaches are pushing that because they want the kid to be a super. And I think it's awful because you don't give the kid a chance to grow. But the majority of the kids we get are 2, 3, and 4 sport athletes. I remember in high school you got a letter for every sport. And guys, if a guy was a 3-letter or more guy, he was considered some heck of an athlete. We are still seeing those players at the high school level.
They're still the best athletes.
They're still the best athletes, but they're the exception to the rule.
And for our listeners, the people that we get on our show on Hudson Valley Sports Talk,
are also great students. That's the other thing. The majority of the students, athletes that come on our show are 90 percentile or better student in the classroom. Some kids 95, some kids 98, and then you got the ones that are over 100, and they can't even figure out their GPA because it's so high off the chart.
Now, one of the big things in baseball that was brought up, especially during the Yankees and Red Sox game in London, you heard a lot more about the tighter wrapped baseballs. They're starting to wrap the baseballs tighter, and there was one video that you saw. I think it was one of the Yankees. I think it was Aaron Hicks. He bounced the ball in the dirt, and it went like 30 feet in the air, which before the baseballs bounced, but not like that.
That's cyclic. It's something that happens every so many years. They make an adjustment to the ball. It
Do you think it's more for home runs, though?
It favors the hitter. It favors the hitter. And then they figure, people are screaming about it. And then they make another adjustment to the ball. And baseball has always been a cyclical curve.
And is it also the pitchers figuring out how to use that ball better as well? They adjust as well at the same time?
With pitchers, you have more pitchers than ever that are pitching at least 100 miles an hour.
And the balls have been being wrapped tight for a long time. Yeah. I'm not saying I'm in favor of the dead ball, but I think they got to find a happy medium. It's just like, you don't want the cork bats, the metal bats, and they're really starting to push more lower and lower down with, bringing back the wooden bats.
And I was going to ask you about that because we College World Series was just on the play, that whole thing, and I can't watch it. I can't
watch ping.
Exactly.
It sounds like a ping pong game.
It sounds terrible. And for me, it's inflated. It's inflated with these hitters. These guys hitting home runs. It's like, would that have been a home run?
A ball back to the pitcher or an infielder can kill him.
Yeah.
Take his head off.
And these kids are strong.
I pitched softball.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And for years, I pitched softball. And the toughest thing is a ball coming off of an aluminum bat.
Coming right at you.
That's a line drive straight at you. I don't know. I've probably caught at least a dozen of them right in front of my face.
And these are 18 to 22-year-old men that are in lifting programs every single day, and they're bigger athletes than they ever have been. Mm-hmm. And now you're giving them aluminum bats where you want to talk about exit velo. You want to talk about exit velocity, which everyone's in love with. You're probably looking at screamers coming back at a minimum 110.
Which is why I don't think, just like they weren't too ready to address the steroid issue and the steroid era, they're not too ready to address the tightly wound baseballs, but they better start putting more screening up.
Yes,
definitely.
That's one thing
they got to address that.
They have it in Japan. They have it in Mexico, and neither of those countries have any issues. The fans, our biggest thing is fan interaction. It's great, but now, all three of us have cell phones. I think too. Do you have yours out too, Carl? I think
mine's in my pocket.
But me and Tony have them out. That's just what it is. Everyone's on their cell phones, and you can scream to the rafters. Pay attention if you're down lower in the games. But the unfortunate part is we do have to play nannies a lot of times nowadays, and that screen is just necessary now.
Yeah.
The screen is also necessary because, when you get pitchers, the majority of the pitchers throwing 100 miles an hour, you no longer have, an 80-mile-an-hour ball coming at you from the stands. You've got 105 mile an hour ball coming. And, that 20 miles an hour makes a big difference.
Huge difference.
And the problem with Major League Baseball is Major League Baseball has made it, it's the responsibility of the stadium as to whether or not they put up the
there needs to be a mandate.
The guard. And there has to be a mandate.
Only the Chicago White Sox.
Well, the Mets have done it too. The Mets have extended down the fouls, the foul lines. They've extended the net down the foul lines. Which should be done now at this point. When you have little kids that are getting, and again, this is also on the parents as well, that you can't always control kids. But if you're putting your little kids in the front, you got to pay attention to the game.
Take the cell phone away. Put it away, take it away, but I digress. I'm not going to tell anyone how to raise their kids.
I'll tell you what I really don't like. Where I really don't like to see cell phones is in restaurants when people
can't
are having
stand it.
Dinner,
yeah, no, I'm not a fan of it.
A family, and they're doing this.
Jerry Rice would have caught that. You see that commercial with Jerry Rice? The family sitting at the table and pass the green beans, and the green beans go all over because dad's looking at the phone, and Jerry Rice is sitting there. You know who would have caught them green beans? Jerry Rice would have caught them green beans.
But anyway, that we can get on a whole nother.
That is not sports. Let's go back to sports.
What do you want to talk about?
So we're going to talk.
Puck score that goal?
Not yet. We're gonna go to Yankees a little bit because it is still Subway Series. It's July 3rd. We're talking day before Independence Day.
I never want to see again. I think it is the stupidest thing. It was nice when it was introduced. It was okay to not put the novelties one off. Get rid of it. Get rid of they're not going to.
See,
I think they should. We disagree on this. I don't like it. I think it's moronic that you're playing teams in the other league. Some teams are playing the Yankees or the Dodgers, and the other team is playing the San Diego Padres. It's not fair. It doesn't balance out.
It all counts.
But
it doesn't, because how do you tell?
This is a nice preview of what you're going to hear on Hudson Valley Sports Talk.
How do you tell the Mets or another team, well, you're going to play the Red Sox, the Tampa Bay Rays, and the Yankees, and the other guys in your division are going to play, the Little Sisters of the Poor? I mean, it's not fair, Tony.
Now,
it's when the schedule is made up, you don't know if they're going to be the Little Sisters of the Poor.
Outside of the Yankees and the Mets,
when the schedule is made up,
there's not a lot of natural rivalries.
There are.
No, they're not.
If you go out to Los Angeles, you got the Dodgers, you got the You got 3 there. You got the Dodgers.
I'd much rather see the Yankees play the Red Sox 4 more times than play the Mets.
Actually,
well, here's the fix, guys. Here's the fix. Let's add a DH to both sides.
No,
you know something?
let's get rid of the DH.
No, either or. No,
they're never going to do that either. There will be the DH.
You're going to add the DH because you want to know why? Because it makes pitchers pitch to 9 guys.
No,
right now the NL pitchers don't pitch to 9 guys.
Stands and it turns turnstile.
Absolutely.
That's why you're going to have the DH in both leagues. I don't. I'm a purist. I'm an old school
guy.
Either
take them out or put them away. But make both leagues the same.
Make the pitcher bat.
The DH, the advantages of having the DH is people get to see players play longer because when you're a DH, you don't have to play the field.
It takes the managing strategy out of baseball.
It doesn't necessarily. The managing strategy is a little bit different.
It's more in the bullpen now than anything.
With the DH, the management strategy is a little bit different. No, you don't have those double switches that you have.
Don Drysdale and Bob Gibson would strongly disagree with you because they loved to bat when they were pitchers.
Well, you look at the Mets,
they were good at it.
You look at the Mets pitchers.
That's why the Mets
and
pitchers
yesterday
are very,
came in a
very
situation.
Good.
Even though they won, there was a situation. I was watching the game where Zach Wheeler came up to bat, and he's a fantastic hitter as a pitcher. And there was a man on first, and in AL. If he's just a batter, he's swinging away just because it's NL rules. He bunts it out. He wasted an opportunity where, old knowledge and very traditionalist baseball does that because it's NL style. But if you're
a lot of that is the manager too.
It is a lot of the manager.
The manager has to know.
A lot of it's now the GM.
Know when to lift the guy, when to pitch hit for a guy,
what they want him to do now.
Which is what I want to see. I want to see the manager have to use strategy.
And and my whole thing is either put the DH in both, or get rid of it in both. Either one, but make both leagues the same.
I hate
interleague play.
I like having them in both because
you will.
I like the strategy that you see.
Years.
I no.
Well, if they add,
what I'm saying is I like having the way they are now with one in one league and the other and
no, but they're
they're
going for the money grab and the turnstiles.
Now, if they even out, now here's a question I don't think anyone thought of. If they even out both leagues, do we get rid of NL AL MVP, NL AL Cy Young? Because the only reason that exists, there's 2 separate rules, so you got to give 2 separate awards. When you make both leagues the same, are you going to make an overall?
No, I think it should be by league.
You're still
okay.
You're
that's
going to
stay traditional there.
That'll stay traditional.
And again, those statistics can get inflated or deflated depending on who your interleague opponents are. So interleague was meant for the World Series. It was meant for exhibition in the spring. It wasn't meant for regular season baseball. That's just me. We disagree on it. I know we do,
disagree because I like the fact that the New York Yankees will come over to Shea Stadium or they'll come over to a National League team. And with the Yankees doing so well now, it gives an opportunity for fans who wouldn't get to see those players. So that's why I like interleague play, because you can't always take a trip to New York if you live out in
Timbuktu.
Well, if you live out in Pittsburgh or if you live out west. You can't always get to New York to see a Yankee game and to see the players play. And I think that's good for baseball when you can see stronger players playing in your town.
That's a valid point. I just want both leagues to have the same rules. That's just me. I don't like both 2 leagues having separate rules.
I don't mind the separate rules. I do mind the what tends to happen is the separate strike zones.
That's something we agree on.
That is, and the strike and the separate strike zones, and I think we should have the same.
You've got an American League umpire and you've got a National League umpire, and each one of them has a different strike zone.
Why can't the strike zone be across the shoulders, across the letters, like
your thighs?
They don't.
Top of the knees, lower thighs.
I rarely see that high fastball called as a
strike. You look at Aaron Judge, a guy like him. As a Yankees fan, I watch him. He gets low strikeouts called on him constantly where you can't, and it's low and in. He's never going to turn his hands quick enough to get there, and it's not possible for a guy that size.
Right.
And just seeing that, and it's not, that strike zone's not there. We have a guy like Jose Altuve whose strike zone is probably the size of a peanut.
Right.
And no one can strike him out, and he gets all these home runs because you have to throw him fastballs down Main Street for a guy his size. And credit to him, great hand-eye coordination, good power. But it's a lot easier for a guy like him to get that for Aaron Judge when they know if you can locate that day, you're throwing it low and inside, and you're more than likely going to get that call on a big guy like Judge or Giancarlo Stanton.
Oh, the plane. Throw me a fastball.
I don't know him. Next, what are we? Turn the page.
You know, let's
Hudson Valley Sports Talk, Sunday mornings, 10 o'clock.
There we go.
In there.
That's it.
We could talk about some hockey. You want to talk about some hockey? You want to know what's fun about hockey? Who's the best New York team right now?
Rangers.
Who's the best New York team right now?
The Rangers.
The Islanders.
No.
The Islanders. They have the best GM in sports over there.
I won't argue with you.
And he is building something. They are the only playoff team.
But JD has come back to the fold, and the Rangers have made tremendous moves these last 2 weeks. It has to
come together on the ice, and the coaching needs to be there as well. They have a good structure. They have a very good structure in New York right now for the Rangers.
A lot of people like the move. I'm a little concerned and was a little concerned. You're getting a college hockey guy in here.
Yes.
Didn't have any NHL experience, but Gorton, Davidson, and don't believe it or not, Sather is still very involved. Okay, he might not be running day-to-day operations anymore, but Glenn Sather still has his hand on the pulse of that team. So the coach has a lot of good influences around him. And the Ranger management team now, especially with JD back, but Gorton himself, are putting the right players. They went out. They got the best available forward in the draft. They went out and got one of the best defensive guys out there. Their rebuild is almost reminding me of the Yankees. It's almost gotten like accelerated. It was only 18 months ago they said to ticket fans, hey, we're going to be a rebuild program.
Yeah.
And now if some of these moves, if half of the moves pan out that they've made, I'm not going to say they're going to be a cup contender. They're going to be in the playoffs.
Well, the fly in the ointment is Dolan.
Well, he stays away in hockey. He doesn't have that influence in hockey.
He doesn't know how to mind his own business with the Knicks. And with the Rangers, he lets the Ranger management team do what they need to do. Because and this is the problem with owners in sports. Jerry Jones, ever since he let Jimmy Johnson
walk
go,
away.
Yeah. How have the Cowboys been outside of the Super Bowl Switzer one with Johnson's guys?
Yeah.
Okay. When the owner gets too involved with the day-to-day operate, which is what the problem the New York Football Giants had in the 60s and 70s.
And the Jets are having now with the Johnsons.
You had the Maras, Wellington Mara and his nephew Tim.
Yeah.
Wellington Mara and his nephew Tim were fighting constantly, and they couldn't stay out of the kitchen. Once Pete Rozelle stepped in and said, enough, you're a New York franchise, you can't have this.
Yeah.
They brought in Ray Perkins and Bill Parcells. It settled at George Young. And where have the Giants been now the last 35 years? Outside of the last 3 or 4 where they've been a little unstable again. But you take that last 3 or 4 years out, and up until 2011, from the early 80s, very stable. Okay? The Jets have had owner after owner after owner, and they make the same mistakes. They don't bring in a football guy to run their football operation.
They may finally have. I like Douglas. I like Joe Douglas.
I like what the Jets are doing. I'm not a Jet fan. Tony is a big one. Okay, and I don't mean that size. He's a big Jets fan. Okay?
See, Tony's right in this equation, by the way.
Yeah. So they got the quarterback, hopefully, in place. They brought in the big running back. They're building the offensive line. They're doing it right. I'm really concerned that the coach is a few cents short of $1 upstairs.
You see those eyes in his press conference? That was scary.
Forget about his eyes. I'm worried about his decisions. I think he's.
I'm not thrilled with Gaze, and I
he's
don't
a Jets
like.
Fan. Yeah, I'm optimistic. I'll put it that way.
I don't see how you can be optimistic. I don't know why they settled on Gaze because Gaze has shown that he hasn't really done it in Miami.
Well, he never really had Tannehill. The one healthy year he had with Tannehill had a career year, and they were almost in the playoffs.
If you've got a good coach, you get the best out of the players that you have. You don't necessarily need to have.
Well, who's winning games with Matt Moore? Who's winning a division with the Patriots and a good Jets team at the time with Matt Moore?
A Jets season this year anything less than 9 or 10 wins.
I'm saying 8-8. 8-8 is probably the number. I don't think 9 or 10 is. I don't know if we can say that.
You've got too many pieces to go 8-8. If you go 8-8 this year, there's something really wrong. You've got too much talent on paper.
If this is a good coach,
we can get
the most 9 or 10 games.
We can get 10, maybe 11 games.
Yeah.
If this is a good coach. Okay, so the jury's out on Gaze. I'm not thrilled with Gaze, but I will give him the opportunity and see what he does.
What gave me a little more confidence in Adam Gase is looking at some of the coaches that wanted to come coach with him. Greg Williams, I think everyone can agree, is a hell of a defensive coach.
He's also a nut job.
He's a nut job, but he's a great defensive coach. And he
how
wanted to
long
come.
Does a guy like that last before he wears out his welcome, just like Rex Ryan, and winds up shooting himself in the foot? You know, it's the Billy Martin syndrome. It's great if and when you're winning, but that kind of coaching rubs players the wrong way and gets them raw real quick.
Yeah.
You know, from everything I heard from what Greg Williams' time in Cleveland and even in New Orleans, all the defensive guys would go to hell for him. So, and like they would run through a wall and they would do it. So apparently, I don't know if it's maybe
but that
just
doesn't always translate to success on the field.
No, that's right. You are correct in that, you know, but it did. Rex,
Tony and I talk about this all the time. Vince Lombardi wouldn't be able to coach today.
No. Well, with Bill Parcells, though, old Bill Parcells, when he was truly the tuna and with his Giants times.
If he was the GM and coach, yeah, he would. But you'd have, like Belichick in New England, you'd have to have complete control. You'd have to be...
Which Adam Gase has.
Well, basically, he does. And I don't know a lot about
I hope
the
Douglas
GM
is legit,
I'd be lying if I said I know anything really about this guy more than what I've read or...
he likes Gase, so it was good that they brought somebody in who likes the head coach that's in the position, because then you don't have that like with Rex Ryan, right?
Yeah.
When they brought in the new GM, he didn't like Rex Ryan, and basically he hung Rex Ryan out to dry.
Yep.
Well, and I think the Johnson brothers, Woody and Chris, to a lesser degree, have the same problem that Dolan has.
Absolutely.
They look at the Jets as their little shiny toy, and they want to play with it. Stay out of the way.
And,
Stay out of the way.
And Chris Johnson gave me some hope when he first came in. And he's like, listen, I don't know much about football, so I'm going to kind of take a wait-and-see approach. And less than a year later, he's sitting there making decisions. And it's like, no, that's not a wait-and-see approach.
Sports in New York is so bad right now that they actually have a debate going on. Would you rather have Dolan or the Wilpons? I think from a personality point of view, I'd rather have the Wilpons, but I don't know who's worse as an owner. I mean, I think about it. We have the Wilpons, we have the Johnsons, we have the Dolans.
I have to say, though, every once in a while, the Wilpons
I would probably want the Wilpons more.
I would take the Wilpons because every once in a while, the Wilpons show something nice. What they did for Seaver, they're coming out with
50 years too late.
Well, 50 years too late, but still, naming the street.
Right, and what was wrong with the ownership before them, who didn't do it either? I mean, but that, to me, that's typical Mets, how they run their organization.
As opposed to Yankees, who put their guys in Monument Hall if they won a World Series with them.
But I have to say, every once in a while, you get something nice out of the Wilpons.
Yeah, they announced that guys who are still alive are dead. I mean, that was awful.
No, naming the street and commissioning the statue all goes to things that Met fans have had an issue with the Wilpons from day one when they put up Citi Field. And is because they never wrapped Citi Field around the history of the Mets.
They wrapped around the history of my Dodgers.
They wrapped it around.
They put some pretty good restaurants
Field.
Back there, though.
They wrapped
Citi
it
Field's
around
awesome.
Ebbets Field. In fact, when you walk into the main rotunda of Citi Field,
yeah, I've seen pictures. Yeah, it looks exactly like it.
Besides that, you walk into the main rotunda of Citi Field. The whole main rotunda of Citi Field is dedicated to Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson never played one game for the New York Mets. Okay, so when
there we go, Carl showing off his 42 Dodgers jersey there.
His 42 Dodgers, but anyway, nothing against Jackie Robinson.
But he wasn't a Met.
I love what he did for baseball. He wasn't a Met. The main area when you walk into Citi Field should be covered with Mets history. And if they wanted to do
but you can't put up Darryl Strawberry or Dwight Gooden or Lenny Dykstra. Like, who are you going to put up? David Wright?
Well,
and Tom Seaver?
You could put up Tom Seaver. You could put up David Wright. You could put up Keith Hernandez. You could put up Gary Carter. You could put up Gil Hodges.
Yeah.
You could put up Gil Hodges.
Who should be in the Hall of Fame.
You could even put up Willie Mays. You could even put up Willie Mays because Willie Mays was in the 73 series.
Here's the thing, though. The Mets have Tom Seaver Way. The Yankees have Monument Park. The Mets have Mr. Met.
Hey, don't knock Mr. Met.
The Yankees.
I like Mr. Met.
The Yankees don't need to have
championships.
Met.
And there's that's the difference. And if the Islanders don't have those 4 Stanley Cups in the mid-'80s, nobody's even talking about the Islanders.
The Islanders are going to be a very good team this year again.
That very, very, very few teams in the history of any sport.
The Islanders have started to be competitive.
They're moving in the right direction.
Well, they did essentially what the Devils did. The Devils came in as a young franchise, had the best goalie in the history of the game, and dominated for over a decade.
They taunted us Ranger fans for years about us not winning in 54 years. Now it's been 36 years for the Islanders. How does it feel? You're not even all the way near where we were, 54. You still got another 18 years to go to get to the pain that Ranger fans suffered.
But, if they win in the next year or two, they're still not as bad as the New York Rangers.
Well, and that's or the Knicks, for that case.
The Rangers have basically won one championship in 75 years. And as far as the Jets, I want their streak to continue because as long as their streak continues, the Knicks don't have the longest streak without a championship in New York.
You know what, though? The Jets still have the most important Super Bowl victory in the history of Super Bowls. So that's the only reason the NFL exists.
At the time,
only reason the NFL exists is because of them.
Place, but the game was fixed, number one, and I'll go on record saying that. I'll believe that till the day I die. Okay, because I
sounds like a non-Jets fan.
No. I heard from Baltimore Colt players who said they were paid. Okay,
they would have to say that.
Earl Morrall,
you lost to a team that you considered to be AAA.
Was a known gambler, and if you go back and watch the films of that game, a couple of his interceptions. Oh, guy's got a green jersey on, bing, and hit him right in the numbers.
I can't discount hangovers back in the day, though. Too, they all drank a lot.
In his autobiography, said that he, Morrall, and several other players were paid.
But if you are the Goliath in the David versus Goliath battle, and you were supposed to squash this team, Johnny Unitas or not, and they come out there and they tough it up and they beat you in what ends up being the biggest Super Bowl in the history of football.
It was at the moment, but we've seen some other Super Bowls.
Bigger than the Giants beating the Patriots and ending the perfect season. Bigger. Absolutely bigger.
It was bigger at the time for the merger to take place.
And we don't have the NFL today without that.
No.
You have to say that the Jet win and the Jet Super Bowl, it really solidified the NFL and solidified the NFL in
it made the AFL
States,
legitimate, I think, at that point.
It just solidified the whole package. And
don't forget, they never really got to play a really great team in the Green Bay Packers.
That's why
that's an agreement. You saw what they did to Kansas City and Oakland.
Yeah, but you know what?
Those games weren't even close.
But any given Sunday is legitimate, and that's really what you see in football.
Lombardi would have allowed that to happen? Not on your life.
No, he would have gotten on the field and started tackling guys himself.
No, he wouldn't have had to. All he would have had to do is grab Ray Nitschke by the mask and say, "You see that number 12? Go break his neck."
God forbid anyone gets grabbed by the mask now. Oh, boy, can't do that.
Can't do that.
So quick talk on the Giants before we close out here.
What?
Just a quick question.
We haven't talked about the Rangers. What are the Dodgers?
We can talk if you want, or we can continue. It's going to be a little long.
I don't care.
All right, let's do it then. We're going to talk about the Giants real quick, though.
Which ones?
The New York Football Giants.
New York Football Giants.
How long before Eli Manning is pulled for the rest of the year?
It depends on how they're playing. I think if the Giants come out and they're winning or halfway decent, they're not going to pull him. My whole thing was, if you were going to re-sign him to that big contract, and as much as I liked Eli, I thought the time was to move on. I thought they should have went free agent and drafted a kid that they could groom. I thought that, and I said this, right?
Yep.
Short and long-term plan, not just a cutover to the long-term plan.
Yeah, I disagree.
He disagreed with me. Okay. But they're going to make the switch at some point.
They have to.
It's a question. Now, if the Giants finish at 8-8, I think you could consider it a good season. They've got to win more than 5 games this year because
I'm seeing 3 in their future. I'm not going to lie because I think they're going to suffer. I think Eli doesn't have.
They've made too many adjustments. The biggest loss, of course, is going to be Odell Beckham.
The telling tale.
No one can get separation besides Golden Tate there, maybe.
The telling tale with Saquon Barkley there. The telling tale, I think, is going to be the offensive line.
Yeah.
And they've improved. They were better at the end of last year.
If they have an improved offensive line that gives Eli Manning more than 2 to 3 seconds to throw the ball, I think the Giants are going to be successful.
Now, what grade
that's a big if.
Would you guys give Hudson Valley's finest, Dave Gettleman? He was a spack and kill coach for a long time. What grade would you give him so far as the GM of the Giants?
I'd have fired him already.
You would have fired him already?
Yeah, I would have. I don't care that he was from Spack and Kill. I don't care that he was a Hudson Valley guy. He's also from Boston. You know what? I don't know what he knows what his plan is, but most people can't figure out what his plan is. I don't know what his plan is. If that was your plan, then why didn't you draft the quarterback last year? And
why this quarterback?
Why this quarterback? Yeah. I know. I'll tell you why. Because he had a in with the Mannings. And it's very much if you don't believe that was tied to it, it very much was. Not only that, you had the opportunity to pick one of among 3 or 4 game-changing defensive ends, which you need, and you passed. Where you could have got this kid. He would have been gone. No, he wouldn't have.
The kid got destroyed by Wake Forest and threw 5 interceptions. Right. I don't think anybody was grabbing that kid in the top 10, 20. Maybe he's a first rounder or second rounder.
And if you were thinking quarterback and you really wanted Saquon Barkley last year, then you should have dealt Odell then when you had an opportunity to get 2 number 1s. You could have got the running back and the quarterback, and you could have started
signing Odell was a mistake.
It was a mistake. It was a mistake cutting him. Re-signing Eli for another big contract was a mistake. So
I don't think cutting.
I don't dislike Gettleman as a person because I don't know him.
Yeah.
But as someone whose families own Giant season tickets since the 1950s, I'm scratching my head a little bit. Okay, that's 60 years worth of family members going to Giant games, even though I'm a Packer fan.
I don't think Odell being cut was a mistake. I think it was
they traded him, but it was the wrong trade.
But I think it was a correction. I think it was a correction.
They didn't get enough for him.
Still, it was a correction.
The time to trade him was the year before.
They didn't need him in the locker room.
No.
That was the problem.
No, they didn't.
And they shouldn't have brought him back with that signing, and getting rid of him like that was fixing the locker room.
Yeah, it's just my concern is who's going to get – Golden Tate's a good receiver, but Sterling Shepard showed he's not a number 1. He cannot get separation.
If Barkley has anywhere near what he had last year as a running back, forget about the catches out of the backfield, and the offensive line is improved, and those are 2 big ifs.
Absolutely.
Eli doesn't have to be throwing it 50 times a game, and now he doesn't have to worry about, if Odell doesn't get his catches, he's going to be pouting, shouting, this, that. And the passing game now becomes part of the whole thing.
Package.
Yeah.
Which is what they need. And the other thing, too, is, quite frankly, the defense has got to hold up their end of the bargain. They got to get to the quarterback. They've got to play better coverage. And they've got to have good linebacker play. Yeah. Their linebacking play has been horrible for years, okay? And they haven't been getting to the quarterback in the last 2 or 3 years. You've got to keep your offense on the field. And too often last year, the Giants' defense was on the field way too long.
And you can't let the team back into the game
at the end.
No,
not at all.
How many leads did the Giants? The Giants won 5 games last year.
They blow 5 or 6 leads last year?
They should have won 9 to 10 games.
They should have.
Look at it.
It was close. Yeah. They were similar to where the Jets were a few years ago.
You flipped 3 or 4 of those games this year. They're 8-8.
Yeah. So you want to talk about your Dodgers? We will give you some Dodgers talk.
I really don't want to. He wants to talk about my Dodgers.
No,
he loves to see
you're
pain.
the one that brought it up.
Well, is Cody Bellinger the MVP of NL right now? He's having a fantastic
He's having
season.
a great year, but you know what? Like I tell Tony all the time, the ring is the thing. So unless they win the World Series, I've been a Dodger fan since 1963. Okay? My last World Series, just like his last World Series win was 86, my last World Series was 88, and that's the last time I got in. At least you've had a few appearances. I don't care that actually the Dodgers have been in it the last 2 years. I don't care that they get in it. I don't care that they're running away with it. I don't care that they're scoring 1,000 runs. Win. It's just like if you're in the Stanley Cup.
We differ.
If you're in the Stanley Cup playoffs, win the cup. The Rangers have come close so many times.
Well, my Devils and your Rangers, the NHL set up the Devils and the Rangers for the Kings to win. The Kings were not the better teams. They just wanted LA to get championships. I'm convinced that Bettman put down an order. The Kings need to win.
I don't
both
believe
of these.
That. They had 3 to 4 lines that they could roll out there. The Rangers didn't. The Rangers were a beat-up team. And, here was the problem. Tortorella had them playing their hearts out. But again, the Billy Martin, Bill Parcells, Tortorella model only works long enough when you're winning. And when you're number one goaltender, and that's 5 years ago now, so Henrik is only 32, 33 at that point, says, I don't know if I'm coming back. You got to make a decision. Is it your goalie or is it your coach? Just like, is it your quarterback or is it your coach?
See, I think what hurt.
And it's a very easy decision to make. So you got rid of Tortorella. You bring in another guy who's been successful. He gets you so far the first time, and then each year they're taking a step back. So I think he should have, and I understand why. Vigneault is not a young guy type of coach. He's going to play the veterans till their tongues are going to fall out, which is what hurt them. But I think if they would have went to him and say, Elaine, we're making a switch. You got to be on board. The kids have got to play. I think he would have adapted because now he's got another opportunity. You got the Devils who have rebuilt their organization with Fred Shiro Jr., his father, the Fog, Freddie, who coached the Stanley Cup Philadelphia Flyers, the Broad Street Bullies, to 2 Stanley Cup titles, and they should have won more. They had that much talent. And then you look at Lou Lamoriello and what he's doing with the Islanders and bringing in a Stanley Cup winning coach.
Possibly the best GM of all time. He's arguably.
Yeah, arguably he is.
Rebuilt the reorganization.
The Rangers have a problem in that their 2 arch rivals are just as good as they are.
Now, I'm curious about the Rangers because this is going to, recent history. From what I saw, now I'm admitting I don't follow hockey super close, but I remember when the Rangers got Marian Gaborik, that was the guy. And I feel
it was the big lug that they got rid of who didn't do anything for him, and they wound up trading him eventually.
I just feel for years that Marian Gaborik, they were trying to build around him and waiting for him to develop.
No, it wasn't Gaborik. I can't remember the guy's name. He was 6'4.5", 6'5".
Oh, you're talking about not Shattenkirk was recently.
No.
That's recent.
The centerman who couldn't put the puck in the ocean in the playoffs.
I know.
And my mind is blank right now, and I can't.
Going numb, but I can't think of it. Yeah.
But you know what? They just made him part of their management team. I'm like, no, don't bring him back.
Hey, listen, those that can't do coach. So that
that's not true. That's not true.
That's the phrase, though.
Yeah, but don't ever tell that to the late Vince Lombardi. He was one of the Fordham granite, the wall of granite. There.
He was one of the big guys there.
He wasn't big, 5'7.5".
Hey, I'm taller than him. Hey, cool. And
I
got something on somebody.
But he was a stocky guy. That's when Fordham College football was a great football program.
And now it's
60, 70 years ago.
a long time ago now. Yeah.
But how about the comeback that Army football has made? I'm a Navy guy because of my dad.
I'm a Navy guy as well, but got to give love to West Point.
They finally rebuilt it, and it's great. It's great for the Hudson Valley.
I think they're ranked 20th in the preseason poll right now.
They finally figured it out. They'll never be back to the 1940s and 1950s dominance that they had. No. But you got to have Army as a legitimate top 25 team in the nation.
Oh, I got to bring this up. There's a push online right now to bring college game day to the birthplace of college football at Rutgers. Being a Jersey boy, I want to say that on here. Let's bring college game day. Tell me that wouldn't be cool.
Can we get Rutgers to play teams they can actually beat?
No, they're in the Big Ten. They can't beat anybody, but they need to come.
Again, like UConn coming back to the Big East, Rutgers needs to go back where it belongs. It does not belong in the Big Ten, which is now the Big 14, by the way.
The issue is that they don't get the same money that other Big Ten teams get, and they're waiting until that happens. And that's another subject that Tony and I talk about a lot. Sports, unfortunately, what you and I and he grew up on, the kids today are not. It's all about the money, whether it's the sneakers, whether it's the program that you buy for your kid, whether it's the $5 or $6, $8 hot dog, for crying out loud. Come on. I mean, that makes me insane. The only place that does that right now is in Atlanta. The Falcons have made all of their concession prices. You can get a beer for $5. $5 beer, a $2.50 for a hot dog. You couldn't even get a cup for that at Yankee Stadium. $2.50 for a hot dog in Atlanta. That Arthur Blank did something right there, completely and totally. Well, when you have enough money to buy a submarine and a plane and whatever the heck else he bought, I mean, it's good for him. Well, unfortunately, gentlemen, he's able to write blank checks. That was a good one. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to bring this to a close. Aww. But this was fun.
It was very fun.
Hope you guys had a good time coming on to my fancy little podcast here, Sports Opinions Podcast. It is 2 of the 3 members of the Hudson Valley Sports Talk. Carl Garofolo Jr. sitting here next to me, Tony Navarro. Who's your third member? We didn't mention him. You guys got to give him a shout.
Carl Lindbergh.
All right, Carl Lindbergh. He's number 3, but number 1 in our hearts, right? Carl's
no, I don't know about that. My wife is number 1 in my heart.
Oh, there you
go. We're both sleeping on the couch now.
But you guys can hear them Sunday mornings, 10 o'clock.
8 years.
Yep.
Together, he and I.
Yeah.
Carl's been with us for 5 years. And there's been a lot of people who've come and gone over the years who've come back and visited and stuff. And we had a year-long pre-celebration leading up to our anniversary on June 4th. And now we're celebrating a year-long celebration.
But the main constant throughout this all is the voice of the Hudson Valley, Mr. Carl Garofolo Jr., who has been doing this show for 25 years.
Yeah, when I started this show, you were in grammar school.
Yeah, I'm 30, so I was 5 years old. Yeah. I don't even think I was in grammar school.
My son is 30. So, my son is 30, and my daughter's 33. So just do the math. They were 8 and 5. Okay, I had hair, and what I had wasn't gray. And I wasn't as excitable back then.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I knew you back then.
So I got to say, guys, it was my privilege to have you guys over here. I love it. I would love to come on.
Bring your former coach, Mr. Calazo, and we'll.
He's shy. It took me over a year to get him to come on this show.
But can you put some meat on his bones, for crying out loud?
No,
he doesn't look like he's eaten a piece of meat in 100 years.
Listen, I try to get him to eat McDonald's every time I go coach with him, and he refuses. So,
man.
So again, everyone, that was the Sports Opinions Podcast. I'm the host, Alex Cuesta. Find me on Twitter and Instagram, _Cuesta30. Find Sports Opinions on Twitter on
you have a quest? I got
Sports Opinion 30.
My quest is this. No.
Instagram, Sports Opinions 30. Visit the Facebook page, just like you could visit the Facebook page of Hudson Valley Sports Talk, HV Sports Talk. Go give it a search. And again, this was a friggin' blast.
We cover 7 counties, and we're heard from New York City past Albany.
There you go. And the Hudson Valley is huge, and that just says it goes right down from the city over to the capital region.
That's why one of our slogans is from the Hudson Valley and beyond.
So again, you can hear this podcast anywhere you can find a podcast. I'm everywhere. You guys can't get away from me. But again, guys, it's lots of fun.
He needs to be. Can we say that?
I might get sued. Thanks.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Carl.
well, I can say Adams Fairacre Farms. I love that store.
And on that note, everyone, thanks for listening. Have a good one.